John Robert Bolton is an American attorney, diplomat, Republican consultant and political commentator who served as the 25th United States Ambassador to the United Nations from 2005 to 2006 and as the 27th United States National Security Advisor from 2018 to 2019. Bolton served as a United States Assistant Attorney General for President Ronald Reagan from 1985 to 1989. He served in the State Department as Assistant Secretary of State for International Organization Affairs from 1989 to 1993 and Under Secretary of State for Arms Control and International Security Affairs from 2001 to 2005. He was an advocate of the Iraq War as a director of the Project for the New American Century, which favored going to war with Iraq. He was the United States Ambassador to the United Nations from August 2005 to December 2006. As a recess appointee by President George W. Bush, he stepped down at the end of his recess appointment in December 2006 because he was unlikely to win confirmation from the Senate, of which the Democratic Party had gained control at the time. Bolton later served as the National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump from April 2018 to September 2019. He repeatedly called for the termination of the Iran nuclear deal, from which the US withdrew in May 2018. He wrote a best-selling book about his tenure in the Trump administration, The Room Where It Happened, published in June 2020. Bolton is widely considered a foreign policy hawk and is an advocate for regime change in Iran, Syria, Libya, Venezuela, Cuba, Yemen, and North Korea. He has continuously supported military action and regime change in Syria, Libya, and Iran. A Republican, his political views have been described as American nationalist, conservative, and neoconservative. Bolton rejects the last term. Bolton is a former senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and Fox News Channel commentator. He was a foreign policy advisor to 2012 presidential candidate Mitt Romney. Bolton was born on November 20, 1948, in Baltimore, Maryland, the son of Virginia Clara Guinea, a housewife, and Edward Jackson Jack Bolton, a Baltimore City fireman. He grew up in the working-class neighborhood of Yale Heights and won a scholarship to the McDonough School in Owings Mills, Maryland, graduating in 1966. He also ran the school's Students for Goldwater campaign in 1964. Bolton attended Yale University, earning a BA and graduating summa cum laude in 1970. He was a member of the Yale Political Union. He attended Yale Law School from 1971 to 1974, where he shared classes with his friend Clarence Thomas, earning a JD in 1974. In 1972, Bolton was a summer intern for Vice President Spiro Agnew. 12-13 he was hired for the position by David Keene. 12-13 Bolton was a supporter of the Vietnam War, but avoided combat through a student deferment followed by enlistment in the Maryland Air National Guard. During the 1969 Vietnam War draft lottery, Bolton drew number 185. As a result of the Johnson and Nixon administration's decisions to rely largely on the draft rather than on the reserve forces, joining a Guard or reserve unit became a way to reduce the chances of service in Vietnam. Before graduating from Yale in 1970, Bolton enlisted in the Maryland Army National Guard rather than waiting to find out if his draft number would be called. 11 He attended active duty for training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, from July to November 1970. 11 After serving in the National Guard for 4 years, he served in the United States Army Reserve until the end of his enlistment 2 years later. He wrote in his Yale 25th reunion book, "I confess I had no desire to die in a Southeast Asian rice paddy. I considered the war in Vietnam already lost." In a 2007 interview, Bolton explained his comment in the reunion book, saying his decision to avoid service in Vietnam was because, by the time I was about to graduate in 1970, it was clear to me that opponents of the Vietnam War had made it certain we could not prevail. and that I had no great interest in going there to have Teddy Kennedy give it back to the people I might die to take it away from. In his 2007 book, Surrender is Not an Option, Bolton described his perception of the war as a futile struggle. And that, dying for your country was one thing, but dying to gain territory that anti-war forces in Congress would simply return to the enemy seemed ludicrous to me. Looking back, I am not terribly proud of this calculation. 11 From 1974 to 1981. Bolton was an associate at the Washington, D.C. office of Covington and Burling. He returned to the firm again from 1983 to 1985. Bolton was also a partner in the law firm of Lerner, Reed, Bolton and McManus. From 1993 to 1999. He was of counsel in the Washington office of Kirkland and Ellis from 2008 until his appointment as National Security Advisor in 2018. In September 2015, Freedom Capital Investment Management appointed Bolton as a senior advisor. During the Reagan and George H.